All NEET aspirants, you are listening to podcast Botany for NEET by S. Ramakrishna. In this podcast, the topic the plant growth and development. In this, the phases of the growth. There are three phases of the growth: meristematic phase, elongation phase, maturation phase. In case of meristematic phase, that is meristem present at apex of root and stem, that is apical meristems, helps in elongation of axis. And the meristem in case of root and stem apex characterized by isodiametric cells, thin cellulosic walls, conspicuous nucleus, dense protoplasm, no intercellular spaces, vacuoles are minute or absent, many plasmodesmatal connections with active metabolism. Proximal to apical meristem, distal to maturation is elongation zone. In this elongation zone, vacuolation, that is increasing the size of the vacuole, results in enlargement of the cell, new cell wall deposition. As new cell wall deposition results in increasing area of the cell. And much proximal to elongation is maturation zone. The word itself conveying its meaning, maturation zone. New cell types are formed in this zone. Cell differentiate and mature in this zone. Cell attains maximum size in terms of wall thickening in case of maturation zone. If you observe the diagram, seed germinate and gives rise to seedling. In case of elongation of the stem can be detected by parallel line techniques. You observe in case of the labeling A, B, C, D, E, F, G. B, C, D shows much elongation than the rest of the regions. That is parallel line technique. Next, growth rates. Increased growth per unit time, what do you call it is the growth rate. And the growth rate expressed mathematically. How growth rate and mathematical expression is related? Because the plant organs, cells or tissues divide and adds the cells in variety of ways. That's why it is a mathematical expression. Arithmetic growth, that is parent cell divides into two progeny cells. In two progeny cell, one differentiate and mature, other able to divide. So it is best exemplified by root and stem elongate at a constant rate. The growth of rate against the time, the graph gives a linear curve. That means it shows a linear growth. And it is equated as LT is equal to L0 plus RT. LT is length in a given time t, L0 is length at time 0, or it is the growth rate. That is equation for the arithmetic growth. Next, geometric growth. Parent cell divide into two progeny cells. The two progeny cells again divide to form the progeny cells. So parent cell into progeny cell. The progeny cells act as the parent cell in next generation, gives rise to daughter cells. So every time parent cell divide, progeny cell divide. And it can be divided into lag phase, log phase, stationary phase. Lag phase, it is initial phase, slow, and the growth is very steady. Log phase, exponential growth, rapid growth, that is parent cell divide. Progeny cells also divide at an exponential rate. Stationary phase, as nutrients become limited, space become limited, slowly it enters into stationary phase. And the growth rate against the time, the graph is going to be S curve, that is called sigmoid curve. And sigmoid curve is an ideal curve in case of the plant growing in natural condition, cells, tissues or organs, even in case of bacterial cell cultures. If you take the example bacterial cell culture, initially the few cells in case of the culture, petri dish. After some time, rapid division in case of the bacteria, nutrients become limited, space become limited, slowly it enters into stationary phase. So lag phase, log phase, stationary phase. And the sigmoid curve is applicable to trees growing in case of seasonal changes? Not at all. Because in seasonal changes, seasonal fluctuation, stepped growth curve, stoppage and resumption of growth, stoppage and resumption of growth. So stepped growth curve can be seen in case of the plants growing in seasonal changes or seasonal fluctuations. Next, the exponential growth can be equated as W1 is equal to W0 e to the power of RT. W1 is a final size, that is length or size, height or size, and W0 size at 0 time, the initial size. So final size depends upon initial size. And R is growth rate, that is called efficiency index, that is ability of the plant to produce new plant materials. So how fast it can produce the material, that is biological material or plant parts, that is called efficiency index. Biomass, how it produces the biomass, how fast it produces the biomass, that is efficiency index. And E is base of natural logarithm with some value. Next, quantitative estimation of growth of organism can be made in two ways: absolute growth rate, relative growth rate. In case of the diagram, two diagrams mentioned, A and B. In first diagram, the leaf 5 centimeters to 10 centimeters square. In second diagram, 50 centimeter square to 55 centimeters square. Suppose if we take the first A, absolute growth, measurement and comparison of the growth in a given time. The growth attained, it is 55. The first one, it is the 10. Initial growth is the 5. Difference, it is the 5. In second one, 55, 50. It is also 5. So in absolute growth rate, A and B shows no difference. In case of relative growth rate, that is growth of a given system expressed on a common basis, that is per unit initial parameter in terms of the percentage. If you take A, the growth attained, it is the 5. Initial growth, it is 5. 5 by 5 into 100, that is 100%. So 100% relative growth for A. In case of the second one, B, growth attained, it is the 5. Initial growth is 50. 5 by 50 into 100, it is the 10%. So in absolute growth rate, A and B are same. But in relative growth rate, for A is more than it is the B. Naturally, relative growth rate in case of the older parts is less when compared to younger parts. So final size depends upon initial size. Next, conditions for growth. If you make a list of conditions: water, oxygen, nutrients, temperature, light, which are the conditions for the growth. If you take water, growth of the plant intimately linked to water status in case of the plant, because water provides turgidity of the cell. Turgidity of the cell help in expansion. Without water, flaccidity. Flaccidity means no expansion. Only turgid cell can leads to expansion. And water is the main medium for hydration of enzyme. For activation of enzyme, water it is required. So water status decides what it is the plant growth. Next, oxygen. Oxygen is required for aerobic activity. As aerobic activity, much amount of energy liberated, so vigorous growth of organism than in case of anaerobic respiration. So oxygen required for aerobic respiration. Nutrients. Macro and micro elements are helpful for synthesis of protoplasmic constituent. What are protoplasmic constituent? Water, protein, carbohydrate, lipid, which act as a source of energy for growth of the plant. Next, temperature. Optimum temperature is required. Any deviation from this optimum, it is certainly detrimental, damaging to the plant, the growth of the plant. And light and gravity affect only certain phases of the growth, but it is required. Light is required for growth of the shoot, positively phototropic. Gravity, root for negative, that is positively zeotropic. So, light and gravity affect the plant growth only at certain phases of the growth. So, we completed in this the phases of the growth rates, arithmetic growth, geometric growth, and conditions for growth. In case of geometric growth and arithmetic growth, if you take the zygote development to embryo, initial growth must be many cells are formed. The growth is geometric. Later, certain cells going to perform the new function, that is arithmetic. So during the development of the zygote to embryo, initial it is geometric, followed by it is arithmetic growth, as mentioned in case of the textual representation of the geometric as well as arithmetic growth. So I am signing off from this episode. We will see in case of the next episode, differentiation, de-differentiation, re-differentiation. So pay attention, listen with concentration, connect to concept, because recalling at the time of NEET examination is going to be easy. Don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to share the channel to others, those who are seriously preparing for NEET.